All right, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Immigration. And we have a return guest. He was actually our first guest in our first podcast. I want to say 2 years ago. Was it 2 years?
Yeah, you want to crown me now?
Yes, 2 years ago. But 2 years ago, I introduced him as Judge Andrew Bain. But now he's State Attorney Andrew Bain. Thanks again for joining us, Andrew, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and just sit with me and chop it up.
Always, man. Always good to see you. Wish we could do it more often.
I know. We have ways to plan. Yeah, but
we need to put that to our wives to plan.
Yeah.
Get us out of the way.
Yes, absolutely. So, you're state attorney now, but give the viewers a little bit about your journey from high school football to know where you are sitting.
And so I'm originally from South Florida. So I grew up in a town in Lauderdale Lakes, which, if you were from down south, Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill, Sunrise, very heavy Caribbean area. And my grandfather is from the Bahamas and my dad's from Key West. And so we've pretty much South Florida people my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I went to school in Pompano Beach, a school called Ely. I was outstanding or standout football player.
Hold on a second. So, before we get to the football, so you said your granddad was Bahamian.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've been to the Bahamas?
Way too long. It's interesting. It's one of those trips that I've been there, but then every time I try to plan to go, something happens.
I know.
I have two places on the map that we go to a bunch of places. We travel a lot when I finally do have time to do that. And so we've planned Hawaii trips.
Yeah.
That all in somebody getting sick or the flight getting canceled. And then so the Bahamas trips end up getting canceled because before I was in trial or I had it was work related for the reason I had to cancel the trip. So we're gonna be back. I promise.
Okay. Do you know anything about conch soup though?
Always, man.
Okay.
Conch salad, cracked conch.
Okay. All right. So the Bahamian blood is still there.
Yeah, still love it, man.
All right. Yeah. So football.
Yeah. So I the All-American football player. Did really well and had the opportunity to pretty much pick any school I wanted to. And so University of Miami became my top choice to go. And so I spent 4.5 seasons there at the University of Miami. Nice. And
O-line or D-line?
Yeah, O-line.
Okay.
And I left there with 2 degrees, one in African American studies, the other one in psychology and a minor in business law.
Nice.
And I took my talents to New York.
Yeah.
And they sent me home.
Which New York though? The Jets or the Giants?
Giants. Yeah, I went to the Giants. So I was in East Rutherford for a while, and they do their training camp in Albany, New York. So kind of going back.
It's cold for a Florida guy though, man.
Yeah, it was. What was interesting? It wasn't the cold that got me.
Yeah,
it was like the pollen.
Really?
I was so sick the whole time I was there.
Pollen really?
It was the pollen.
Wow.
And especially when you're outside the city, because it's kind of a grassy, marshy land around New York, and it's just when I got there, I was sick for 2 weeks. Just
wow. Yeah.
And then so that was what really got me. But the cold really didn't bother me. I ended up marrying a woman from Minnesota, so they have a. That's a different type of cold.
That's frigid cold, man.
Yeah, that cold, man. Yeah. That man, she's a February baby, and she's like, oh, 1 year. She's like, I really want to go. I want to go home for my birthday, and we went. And I was like, this is never happening again. Like our marriage may be over. I know, right? If we had to come back here in the wintertime,
yeah.
I'm staying home. It was so cold. Because it's so flat, and then you got the Arctic wind that blows from the plains, and it's just oh man, it's unreal how cold it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I left there, and when I got back, started getting ready for law school. Started working for some firms, some civil firms, while I was doing that, and went to school right here at FAM.
Nice.
Knocked that out and just had a great time. Had great teachers, great classmates. A lot of them still, here locally.
Yeah.
And so I had an opportunity to start at the state attorney's office because that was one of my internships I did while I was at FAM.
Okay.
And so I did that for 7 years.
Wow.
And came back, got an opportunity after applying for a while to be appointed to be a judge. Got to do that in 2020. Last time I was running for judge at that point again to keep my job.
Yeah.
We did that successfully. And, we're voted in by the people. And so I continued to do that. And then I got a call in August to, decide to serve back and come back to the office and decide to run it because the governor was going to suspend our current state attorney.
Okay.
So, stepped up to the plate and, we've been killing it ever since. Yeah, we're doing it, man.
Yeah. So, one question that I always get asked is, I always have people ask me, what was my journey like as a person of color?
Oh, yeah.
Right? As a person of color, trying to apply for a job and trying to grow a law firm. And, as a Jamaican, I said, I never really saw, or I never really felt pushback because of my color. I just always knew that this was a dream I had. This was the vision I wanted to accomplish, and I went after it and got it. I didn't wait for anybody to give me anything. Granted, when I was applying for jobs and I was looking at firms, nobody looked like me, right?
Yeah.
But from, Caribbean, but also African American perspective, how do you see that journey into a profession where, it's less than 5% colored males?
Yeah, males especially. I think it's even less than that. I think it's closer to 3% Black men. And so it's been a really interesting journey. So just the state attorney's office in general. So when I got there, I think there were 2 other Black men there. And then Jonathan Blocker was one of them.
Yeah.
And when I got there, he was one of my mentors during law school. And when I got there, he's like, "Oh yeah, and I'm leaving." And so so he kind of left me there as being like, now it was like those 3 of us, and then I was the only one in Osceola County. That's where I was assigned. And then he was up there, and there were 2 others in Orange. And so it's obviously different because, there's cultural things about just African American culture and Caribbean culture that's just completely different than what would be Anglo-Saxon or Caucasian African American culture. Yeah. And it's just, growing through those things and trying to find your path is one of the ways you have to learn what to do. Why I tell my mentees, mostly like when I work with them and talk to them about when they run into those type of issues, because they do happen where like somebody's going to downplay you, treat you differently. There's going to be some type of racism or bigoted nature to what's going on, but you have to understand how to move when that happens. Yeah. So you have really 2 choices at that point. Usually, you can get mad about it, and then just like throw up your hands and quit. Yeah. That doesn't really get us forward as a people.
Correct. Yeah.
So you got to. What I tell them, they always have to you got to find out what makes the powerful powerful. Yeah. And how can you exploit that to your advantage? And so that's kind of, you got to start thinking that way. So it's a change in mindset. Yeah. And then because like you said, you got to stay focused on what's the goal. Correct. Are we going to get to the goal? Some of the, we look too many times. A lot of people let minor things derail them. They turn minor things into major things, and it derails them from the goal they originally set. Yeah. So if you just stuck with the goal and just shaved off all the other things, you'd have been in a better position and ready to, get the thing that you were trying to work for. Correct.
Okay. So is it fair to say that you do believe that, in our profession and moving up, there is some level of racism or prejudice?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's getting better. Yeah. I think that when I first came out of law school, now this is 11 years plus now ago, it's much better
Got it.
than it was before. I think you see a lot of firms put a lot of effort towards diversifying their staff, and we're producing more lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're still dramatically below capita. And so if you go to any national conference, you immediately realize that you are one of the few at that conference.
But why do you think that is, though? I mean, less than 3%. I mean, do you think it's resources, exposure as a culture? I mean, is it a mindset?
I think it's a lot. There's a lot of things that play into that. So, and when it comes to kind of systematic or structural racism type things, there's a lot that plays into it, from education to housing to food, and poverty and all different types of things that affect a lot of the Black and brown neighborhoods, because a lot of them end up being the lower socioeconomic neighborhoods. Yeah. And so there's a lot of things that go along with that process of dealing with that. And so the things that, because like something I do at work, you gotta stay mindful about how do we address those issues. So one of my things, I'm a big literacy person. So because there's a huge literacy connection, a lack of literacy between what's going on in our schools in those neighborhoods, and then you see those same people in the criminal justice system. Yeah. So we have to find a way to work that situation to where we're reducing that number, that we're increasing our reading scores and those type of things like that. Because that's a somewhat of a resource issue, but that's a resource issue that's something that we can solve. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? That's just as an education thing. So, it's hard to oppress a well-educated society or group of people. Wow, that's deep. So that's really what it is. So we have to find a way to better educate ourselves across the board. Again, things have gotten better. Yeah. But when we're talking about the people we are just living in those communities, so I just came from Washington Shores, and so you have to understand what's going on in the community. We have to be pushing, especially the level of education, because again, it's super hard. I mean, it's in history. It's hard to find a well-educated society that gets oppressed.
That's true. And just a second thing right there, coming from Jamaica, and most Jamaicans can agree to this. I mean, education is like pushed super hard. Like I came from a family of 2 educators, so I didn't have a choice from graduating high school, graduating college, and getting my master's. Like there was no negotiation there. But in terms of from the immigrant perspective, the ones who want to transition to the U.S., there's so many roadblocks, and I've tried to take the role now of in the viewpoint of literacy, like you, but educating them that yes, you can transition from the Caribbean into law school here. There are different type of visas that allow for that, but a lot of people don't know there are also different type of visas that would allow you to practice in a law firm or to start your own law firm. Right. There's a process, but it is doable. But again, literacy and knowledge, as I said, it's extremely hard to oppress a nation or a group of people that is educated, right? Correct. And that's deep. That's deep. I love that. All right, so transition into state attorney, right? Most people would want to know, okay, state attorney, I mean, are you just an attorney in the state? What does the state attorney do? And a lot of people don't understand being appointed. I mean, you were appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis, but what does the state attorney do?
So it's probably the worst name for a government official that we have in the state of Florida. Yeah. And because you'll tell somebody you're the state attorney and they immediately think you're in Tallahassee. And so you got to explain to them, like, no, there are 20 state attorneys because there are 20 judicial circuits. Yeah. I happen to be the state attorney in the 9th Judicial Circuit, which is 2 counties, Orange and Osceola County. Okay. So that's probably like the worst name in the world. Yeah. But I think for people that are TV watchers, what I do is the second half of Law and Order.
Okay.
So you have the police officers that go out and investigate crimes and arrest people or for supposed criminal offenses. And then my office is in charge of deciding whether to file those charges and prosecute that person for that crime. And so that's the kind of thing that we work. That's the main job of what we do. Okay. And so what I've taken the job to do is something that I wanted to do when I was first at the office. Yeah. So when you're not in charge, you got to do what they tell you to do. Yeah. But now I get to do all the things I think our office had the ability to really make a difference in our community. And so the main thing that I wanted, my mission statement, if you look at our mission statement for the office, is that we want to build safer communities. Okay. So, and that's doing our job of prosecuting people for violent crimes and things that cause harm to people, to people taking your stuff and all that kind of stuff like that. That's part of doing our job on our end. But you also have to be on the prevention, deterrent side of the crime, because I believe that's the correct moral thing to do. Yeah. And it's something that our office has the great capability of doing it. And one of the things that I wanted to be a hallmark of my time at the state attorney's office was the number of community organizations that were able to partner with to address underlying criminal issues. And so, the things that cause crime. We talked about education. Okay, so we talked about the root. We talked about root causes. We're talking about education. We're talking about poverty. We're talking about different kind of barriers that are put in place because of people that are justice affected. How do we find ways around it? And how do we are creative in making sure that we're providing the proper resources to our community to thrive. And so we have to be doing that because I'm only a finite office of people. Yeah. And especially here in Central Florida right now, since we're up to almost 2.2 million people live here now. Absolutely. In between both counties. Yeah. And so I have 164 attorneys that work for me. Wow. And so that's a lot of people to cover. That is a lot of people. We have 65,000 cases that come through the office. And so it's a number of resources I don't have to allow crime to get out of control. Absolutely. And so we have to deter it in both, the prosecution of it, but also help making sure that people are finding ways to stay out of our criminal justice system through better diversion programs, through better resource programs, to talk about, families. Yeah. So you talk about your family. Yeah. You like mine. We have very structured, straight, hard families. Yeah. Because we're gonna go to school, you're gonna graduate. This is gonna happen. 100%. And so that is not how it is. A lot of these kids, the people that grow up in these neighborhoods, is not how they grow up. So they don't experience that because they don't have a proper family structure. So we got to talk about how our families are set up. And
I mean, that's where it starts from.
Yeah.
It starts from the home.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, just to scroll back a little bit about you saying coverage that you needed because Orlando is growing. Yeah. But the statistics show that Orlando, I want to say, is 30% immigrant.
Probably.
Somewhere around there the last time I checked. What is your interaction in your office with immigrants? How has that interaction been for you?
I think it's been the same way it's kind of gone since I started working with the office. Yeah. So every time the presidential administration changes, something changes inside of the office. So when I first got to the office, President Obama was president, and then we had President Trump, and then we had President Biden, and then now we're going to have either President Trump or President Harris, and then so it's going to bring in a new thing that's going to happen. But basically, what we do in the office is we don't have a direct connection per se. Yeah. So when somebody's arrested that's an illegal immigrant, that's somebody that's here in the country illegally, there's a whole process that happens when they get arrested at the jail. The clerk, the jail notifies the customs agents, the ICE agents, and they either, if there's a removal order, then they kind of go through that interview and evaluation of whether they're going to remove the person from the country. Yeah. And so that's kind of, we're kind of not really involved in that.
Let me stick up in here for some of my listeners. So Again, he said they check to see if there is a removal order. So a lot of times I say, make sure you know your immigration status. Make sure you attend your hearings, because if there is a removal order against you, right, it's significantly more challenging for any immigration attorney to save you, right? So always check, like in my consultations, if I have somebody who, say for instance, they cross the border or their other status, or they have had interaction with law enforcement, I always call the number, and I've given you guys a number that you can call and see if there has been a removal order issued against you, because see, it's something that they do check for, right? There's something called an ICE hold. Even if you get arrested for a DUI or driving while license is suspended, or driving without driver's license, they will check. Right?
Yeah, so they'll check, and then so we really don't. Only time then it kind of moves through the normal process of a criminal case.
Yeah.
Which means there's an arrest, there may be an initial appearance, you may bond out. There's an arraignment if we file the case, and the case moves on to resolution at that point.
Okay.
And so it's really we're kind of as subject. We're subject to whatever ICE is doing at that point.
Yeah.
And so
it's like out of your hands.
It's out of our hands at that point at the office.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes have to check to make sure that are you going to deport this person?
Yeah.
Because then there's we have to move things in a certain order at that point, so we can either get the case resolved or figure out what's happening with our
because I've had clients before. They're in custody, and then the strategy becomes, hey, if we bond out, right, you're going straight to removal proceedings.
Correct.
So now the strategy is like, all right, do we not hit the bond and let's try to get this resolved, knowing that you will go before an immigration judge, but you'll go without any charges, versus bond and you get accelerated into removal proceedings.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And so we really at our office kind of don't play a role in that space. But we try to make sure that, again, that we're looking out for the best interests of the community at that point. Because some people are not, it's not the DUI. Yeah. It's something very more serious. Yeah. And so we'll make sure that the person's not going to be released back onto our streets. Yeah. And that they're going to deport them. They're actually going to do it. Yeah. So they're not going to return to the country. Yeah. And so if they are somebody that, the way I tell them, if somebody's a very dangerous person, if it's a chance they're going to come back, just go ahead and just send them to prison. Because it doesn't, because we had two situations so far already since I've been in office where that's occurred, where the prior administration was like, well, they're going to deport him. Yeah. They didn't deport him. Yeah. He came back, and we have a situation where we have a 13-year-old little girl that got killed by that gentleman. Wow. So you have to be cognizant about what's going on, not just assuming that, well, they have a removal order and that ICE is actually going to do it, because if you probably talk to the people about, it's just because you have a removal order doesn't mean that you're going to get removed now. Exactly. Because depending on what's going on in your home country, if there's war, there's famine, there's all these kind of different things like that are going on in your home country. Yeah. You can have a removal order, but they're not actually going to deport you because of something that's going on in your home country.
And you have a fear of returning to your home country. So here's a particular question for you. And it may be subjective. I mean, I believe that they're facts. But do you believe, based on some of the narrative out there, that immigrants are more likely to commit crimes than, say, a regular U.S. citizen? I mean, do you see that in terms of numbers?
I don't see it. I think that people commit crimes for the same reason why the people that live here commit crimes. I think people that come here, and they commit a crime, or they would have committed the same crime if they were at home. Basically, it's not a new thing. So I think that it plays into the same reasons root causes why people commit crime. There's some type of, and that a lot of times, that maybe not true education, but it may be language, poverty, all the same things like that. They'll lead you down this road of committing crimes, and so that's not anything different than people that live here. Got it. It's education, poverty.
Yeah.
They fall into the same bucket just because you're from a different country doesn't change the kind of reasons why crime is committed.
Absolutely, completely agreed. And so last year, as you know, like a lot of the state laws in Florida changed, especially directly affecting immigrants, right? And I've had some immigrants here that say they don't feel safe as an immigrant, as a human being. How do you feel about that? Or what would you have to say to that immigrant who says, I don't feel safe? I feel like I may be targeted or more scrutinized by law enforcement or not get a fair shake in state court.
Yeah. I think you shouldn't fear.
Yeah.
I think that with the way you're, at least here in the Ninth Circuit, I can't speak about other state attorneys, but here, I think you should expect the same thing from everybody.
Yeah.
That's kind of been one of my pillars of things that we have to accomplish in the office. So I have like 4 pillars. One is safety, one is transparency, one is community. And so there's in the transparency and there's an integrity portion of it too.
Okay.
And so in transparency and integrity, those kind of things kind of play off of each other.
Yeah.
And so that talks about fairness and being like a trusted servant for the people. Okay. And we had to have those kind of conversations with the people that work for me. And so that's the goal. So you got to make sure that we're going to treat you fairly.
Okay.
So I tell it's no reason I tell people when I was a judge or even when I was an assistant state attorney the first time, I'm not here to judge you as a person.
Okay. I'm
here to judge you for breaking the law.
Absolutely.
And so if you broke the law, there's a certain consequence that comes with that. But I'm not here to tell you that you're a bad person, that you're, somehow less than a person just because of that. We're here to talk about, you committed a certain action that is a violation of our law. And obviously we have to live by the rule of law. That's the reason why people come to this country. Yeah, they come to the country because there's a rule of law. Especially people that come from places that there's just dictators, or there's just this is the wild west, and there's no laws, and people come here because the stability of the rule of law, and so we want to make sure to provide that to everybody that comes into our system. Awesome,
and I mean that's something that I said to my clients all the time is that well they say to me all the time that I'm here, I feel less than. I'm coming from a country where there's struggle, but I'm here and I feel less than a human being, and my interaction with law enforcement, it's always heightened even more than being black. But being black and immigrant, I feel more scared. But I always say, I was like, look, if you're staying in between the lines, right? If you are seeking the right advice from the right people, such as attorneys, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. But they always say their experiences have been different, such as a law enforcement officer hears an accent and immediately wants to ask, what is your immigration status? Right? But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I believe, based on some interpretation of the new laws that were put in place last year in the bill that was passed, is that there is a route that law enforcement can ask someone their immigration status.
Right.
Well, what's that procedurally? Your understanding procedurally?
So that's basically any check. So they can run checks on you, and immigration is one of them.
Yeah.
So if you're stopped by law enforcement for some, traffic stop or some they gather some reasonable suspicion to stop you.
Yeah.
They can run checks.
Yeah.
And so that kind of ends in sometimes them calling their ICE detachment.
Yeah.
Which is, I think most law enforcement agencies have one, or some kind of detachment between Department of Homeland Security for that purpose.
Okay.
And depending, again, that's an administration thing. So so under, like I said, under Obama, at first it wasn't that bad, but then they were just taking up people off the streets.
Yeah.
And then that kind of continued during Trump. Obviously, we saw it slow down during Biden.
Yeah.
But it was, like I said, that's just kind of an administration thing, because I've seen them where they get them notices for the hearing, they go away. But I've seen them also where they detained them.
Correct.
So it really just depends on, again, like you said, knowing your immigration status.
Yeah.
And because don't miss your court date, because that officer gave you that notice of hearing, and then you don't show, then they're going to issue a warrant, or a removal order is going to be entered against you, and
Exactly.
then things get harder.
Yeah.
So they're going to check.
Yeah.
So you should go in, because you should not go in fearing if you already know your immigration status.
Yes.
So if you don't know your immigration status, then there may be some concern at that point.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you go and call a number, get it checked.
Yeah.
And make sure you're still on good standing, or that you don't have any outstanding court dates. You'll be good.
Okay. And I mean, you may have touched this, but just to tie in everything, do immigrants have rights?
Yes, you have rights.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do undocumented immigrants have rights?
Yes, you do.
And what would you say those rights are when it comes within the realm of the law?
So in the criminal justice world, just every single person that's in our country, whether illegally or not, has rights.
Okay.
So you still have the right to remain silent.
Yeah.
You still have right against unlawful searches and seizures. You have all those type of rights that still exist. A right not to be for cruel and unusual punishment. All those same constitutional rights still exist for that person, regardless of what your immigration status is.
Nice.
So it's, now does ICE play a role in, obviously, those type of things, and then when you deal with them, that's a little bit different.
Okay.
But when it comes to this outright criminal justice system, you have all the same rights as everybody else.
Great. All right. So you mentioned fairness and just equality, right? And I've looked at a couple of interviews that you've done, and you repeat those words like that's something that you stand on. Is that from your background as a judge, or is that from your mission as the state attorney? I mean, what do you mean when you say that?
So it's something that I think is kind of part of my innate nature.
Yeah.
But it's also something that's part of my belief of just being a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so I take my oath that we took when we swore to be the Florida bar very seriously.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I went back to FAMU and I teach ethics.
Yeah.
As one of the classes as an adjunct professor, is when it's my main class that I teach is professional responsibility.
Okay.
Because our power in what we do and the authority that when we speak about something is very dangerous if not used appropriately.
Yeah.
It can create inequities. It can cause people to lose their freedom, lose their fortunes. You have so much power in doing that. Yeah. And so there has to be fairness and equity in everything you do. Yeah. Even when you're opposing somebody for a case. Okay. Let's say, when I was a prosecutor, when I was in the courtrooms all the time, even if I'm opposing what's going on to what the defense attorney wants, I still have to do it in a fair and equitable way. It can't be just, I'm gonna win. Doesn't matter how I win, and we're just gonna do it, whatever way that we can do it, and that can't be it. Because you have to make sure that you're upholding all those same constitutional principles I just talked about. Okay. That you're not violating somebody's constitutional rights, that you're upholding the law that you said you're going to uphold. And so you have to be about doing that in doing this job, especially as a prosecutor, because there's so much power, even more so than just being a regular lawyer. Yeah, absolutely. And so you have to be vigilant about making sure that you're using that power equitably. Absolutely.
Okay, so you're running for re-election. You have a background of being a prosecutor, a judge, and then now state attorney. I mean, that unique trajectory, that unique resume, how does that set you apart?
I think it does. I think it sets me apart for a lot of reasons. Yeah. One, I have the prosecutorial experience. So I've actually been in the courtrooms, prosecuted cases, had to actually weigh that power and utilizing it. And then so you have to be able to teach that and be able to share that. And you have to also get a space for the people that work for you to learn how to use that power appropriately.
Yeah.
And so when I took that to the bench, you kind of get a different perspective altogether.
Yeah.
Different from being a lawyer. So when you're a judge, you're kind of like perched up there like an eagle.
Yeah.
And you get to watch everything that's happening. So you get to watch on both sides, where both sides are failing to provide equitable justice when it's going on, whether it's in representation of a client by a defense attorney, or whether it's the prosecutor not being knowledgeable enough to know how to enforce the law that they're supposed to be enforcing.
Okay.
And so I took all of that experience that I had and turned it into how I decided how I wanted to structure the office, how I wanted to lead the office.
Okay.
And so we've been doing that.
Okay.
So one of the first thing is you want to uphold the rule of law.
Correct.
So that's your main job as a prosecutor. So that's why. So I give very simple instructions to my team when it comes to that. Your job is to follow the law and do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's an equitable portion of what you need to do.
Okay.
But you have to follow the law, because if you don't do that, then it's an automatically default that it's going to create an inequitable resolution. Because that means that somebody over here is going to get a different result than another person, because we didn't follow the law.
Got it.
And so you have to make sure that that's done in every single case.
Okay.
And so that mindset is different from people that haven't done this before.
Okay.
So when you have people that have been in office that don't have that same ideal, and also add that the person that you need to protect the public, you have a public safety job, things go awry.
Yeah.
So if you can't go into a job wanting to have less defendants, and then not working with law enforcement, it doesn't keep our community safe.
Yeah.
And the evidence shows that. So we had a dramatic drop in crime in 2021 everywhere in the country. So all over the country, after coming out of COVID, there was a dramatic drop in crime. But then here in the Ninth Circuit, what started occurring was our violent crime, our homicide rate started rising.
Okay.
Because there were just more violent people on the street, because we weren't upholding our side of the bargain.
Wow.
So law enforcement was arresting people,
but
then we weren't doing what we had to do. What the prior administration was doing was not upholding their side of the bargain and prosecuting those people and making sure they're going to keep our community safe.
Got it.
So we kind of changed that dynamic. Want to make sure that we're on top of that. That our main focus is, again, building a safer community is the first portion of our mission. So everything that we need to be doing in the office is focused on building that safe community.
Yeah. Okay.
And then on the flip side, we have great diversion programs. I've been traveling our whole circuit.
Yeah.
So I cover from Yeehaw Junction all the way to Apopka, in front of parks, all the way to Buffalo and Christmas and Kenansville and Harmony and Osceola County. And so that's a massive area that has to be covered, and we have to be able to have resources that we're able to deploy to all those different places. And so we've been working with people like Career Source of Central Florida, Operation New Hope. It's been, HB, like Home Builders Institute, all types of different people. Recovery Connections, which is a drug treatment program or organization, and their job is to find people treatment options. So a lot of people are like, well, there's no treatment options. I don't know. I mean, the person has a drug problem. We don't know where to send them. They actually get money from DCF to just do that, just to find people places to go for treatment. And so they're a peer-run organization. Yeah. So everybody that works for them is a long-term recovery. Okay. So it's a great place for people to go. They're seeking help for addiction. And so we have to, and that's, fentanyl's a big problem here locally and around the country. We saw we picked up a gang that was here that was selling fentanyl. They were involved in 3 homicides, unfortunately 4 homicides of people by selling them daily doses of fentanyl, disguised as oxycodone pills. So all those things are, things that so I'm saying that's the community safety aspect that I have to do. So I'm here for you if you want the help for addiction, mental health, find a job, get out of poverty. Financial literacy is a big thing that we've been pushing in our diversion programs. Wow. And so we've been wanting to make sure we're leaving people better off than where we found them.
So, I mean, I know you mentioned the term like diversion programs, and I mean, I know what it means, but simplify like what a diversion program is and the essence behind a diversion program.
So it's a program designed so when you are accused of a crime, it's a way to divert you from the regular criminal justice system. So that means to take you out of the criminal justice system, place you in a program, and if you complete the program, your case gets dropped. And so we have varying levels of that, from civil citation for adults and juveniles, which means that before you're arrested, they kind of write you a citation. You have to complete the program. And then we don't file any case charges against you. We don't arrest you for that charge. We have ones after you're arrested, but before the case is filed, for diversion. And we have more for cases after they're filed. And you still have opportunity for different types of diversion at that point. So it's just taking you out of the criminal justice system and putting you into a different program to hope keep you out of the system from coming back.
Okay, got it. Okay, all right. And I mean, I feel like diversion programs sometimes it's like a second chance for somebody. Instead of getting an actual conviction, the diversion program actually gives them a chance to rehabilitate someone, right?
So it's the second chance program is for that purpose. And that's exactly what it's called. It's called the second chance program.
It's called the second chance program.
It's called the second chance program. And so one of the things that we actually expanded, we're talking about immigration. So we expanded the people that were allowed for the program from before. So before the policy was that you had to be able to legally work in the United States. And so that immediately eliminates a whole bunch of visa categories of people that come to here to visit. They may be able to visit but not work.
Correct,
And so we included those people that come here to visit, people that come for the theme parks and different other reasons to come here, but may not be able to get a work permit. And so it's one of the things that we expanded the program to include. And so it's something that in trying to understand our community, understand what goes on here, and to not penalize people for arbitrary things is something that we want to work towards.
Got it. All right. So I mean, touchy question for you. So, some of my colleagues asked me to say, okay, so Andrew Bain, you are appointed, right? So the state attorney is appointed by the governor, right? So it's a Republican governor, but you have remained impartial and unaffiliated.
Correct. So
that still ties into you wanting to maintain your impartiality or no?
Yeah, I think so. The governor appointed me, and then there's an election that we have to run, so then you're elected. But I think that what my main thing is that in growing up in the neighborhoods that I'm talking about is that politics didn't really help. And so I can't really name a time in my childhood where I grew up or even around here where politics really made some dramatic difference. Whether it was a Republican governor or a Democratic governor, or like I said, I just talked about Obama, Trump. Now we have Biden. Like all those different during all those administrations of who the president was. Like I said, I just came from Washington Shores. Washington Shores still looks like Washington Shores, even whether it was who the president was. So again, that doesn't help the people in the community.
Got it.
Especially the people in the community that really need help. And that's where I spend my time. And working, trying to make sure that we're trying to uplift a lot of those people out of that situation, because then that obviously is again a great moral thing to do. But also important for our criminal justice system.
Okay, awesome. And as we wrap it up, Andrew, what is your office's interaction with, like, say, the police department or the sheriff's department? Do you collaborate? Like, how does that work? Like, people would want to know, what's the relationship between the prosecutor and police? Like, are they trying to hit quotas? Do they work together? Are they, how does that work?
So I think it's a partnership.
Okay.
The best way you can describe it. And so in any partnership, there's going to be some give and take. There's going to be some collaboration. There's going to be some independent work. And then there's going to be some accountability. And so that's kind of how you want to think about how we work with law enforcement. So we can't do our job without law enforcement. So what that means, I can't keep my community safe and prosecute violent people and drug traffickers and human traffickers without the work of my law enforcement partners. So we can't do that. But we also have to be in a situation where we're making sure that they're doing their job appropriately in the sense of not violating people's constitutional rights. Some of those rights we talked about, they're not committing crimes, and so forth. So my job is still at the end of in that partnership is to be an accountability portion, but to be fair about it. I don't go around just like before they were telling everybody that every law enforcement officer is a liar and all those kind of different things, and things from around the country were affecting how policing was going on here. And so you have to look at each individual situation for what it is. So if this law enforcement officer is breaking the law, has a DUI, or we had one when I first came in where he was trying to hide his friend from being picked up because he had a warrant. So he got prosecuted for that. We had an excessive use of force case that was just filed. We filed it against a Kissimmee police officer, and so there has to be accountability in that situation. So what I tell people is that I'm not going door to door to every law enforcement officer looking to see what's going on. But I'm also not covering my eyes. And if I see something that doesn't look right, and not say something. And it's been a great relationship. I think that we found a way to respect each other. And like I tell people, we agree on a lot of things, but sometimes when we disagree, though, we have it out. But at the end of the day, the idea is that, okay, how are we going to work together to make our community safer? So that's how we've been working as a partnership. And so, like I said, we're both married men. We got kids and all some of that. So you got to be accountable to your partner. You have to work with them.
100%.
You don't always have to agree with them.
Very true.
And so it's the same thing.
All right. What would you want to say to the people who are like on the fence, in terms of your direction, your leadership in the office?
I just say that we've been proving it. I have you can come, check out our diversion programs. You can talk to our partners. You see me out with a lot of our partners, our community partners, working with them, getting them a part of what we do. You should definitely, if you have a family, come attend our event on October 5th, where we're doing some entrepreneurship work and financial literacy work for families, trying to build that family unit that we talked about. So we've been about everything I've said on this podcast. We've been about. We've done. We've been educating our kids. When the ones in the juvenile justice system. I started with 5 kids on our Turning Pages literacy program last semester. I have 10 kids now at Positive Pathways this semester, and we're going to continue to grow that program as big as we can, including to training teachers and young educators, early education people that are involved in that. So it's something that we're really serious about, dealing with a root cause problem. And so, but we're also I'm deadly serious about protecting people from violent people, especially and dangerous people in our community. I'm not going to back down in protecting our kids, protecting our seniors, and protecting the people that just want to live here. Like, we're here in downtown. Downtown before I took office, it was crazy out here. It was like a shooting almost every week.
That's true.
And so
that's very true.
And we've been working, like I said, that's that partnership with Chief Smith downtown, to that, we're working with him, making sure that we're holding people accountable. He's able to do his job and holding people accountable, keep them safe while they're out having fun on a Friday, Saturday night downtown. And so that's what we're looking to continue to work for. And so we want to make sure that we're doing it in an obviously fair and equitable way. But we have to be very serious about the people that want to cause harm and call it what it is. If you sell fentanyl to somebody, you're selling death. And so I'm not here to feed you. Like, you want to kill this person to feed your kids. It's not a trade-off.
Yeah.
that I'm willing to accept.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm about. So everything that I say, we do. And so if you want to come and help, you're welcome.
All right.
And you want to come and be a part of it, we'll try to find a place for you to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can, again, reduce the work that I have to do.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I can go on vacation once in a while.
I know, right?
I can make that trip back to the Bahamas.
I know, right? Yeah.
So I can get some work done. But that's what we're about.
Okay.
And and everything else is, just a distraction, just a way to divide people and not look at, the actual facts of what's going on. The facts are that, people were dying at a rate that was unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And people were just being harmed unnecessarily.
Yeah.
There's enough evil people in the world.
Yeah.
I don't need to put them back out on the street for them to do more things.
Exactly.
So we have to do our job.
Yeah. Well, I can 100% say that. I definitely feel safer knowing you're the man in the driver's wheel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Andrew, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you for coming out.
Yes, sir.
And this won't be the second time. There's going to be more times.
Yeah, man. We're good for the kind of one and done, and then we'll get back together and we'll do it again, and then we'll try. We're going to be consistent.
Exactly.
Our goal is consistency.
Yeah.
For the near future.
Yes. All right. That's a wrap. Well, that was dope, man. Some good stuff.